Hi, this is Reg Athwal, and welcome to our channel for another episode for Family Business Experts, where I get a chance to interview an expert, an entrepreneur, someone who can give us their ideas, insights, words of wisdom that can help us at either a family level, business level, or ideally both. So it's a real pleasure today to have someone who's in a family business, helping family businesses. So we have a lot in common. And Amalia Brightley-Gillott is the managing director of Family Business Place. It's a nationwide membership network in the UK exclusively for the leaders of family-owned businesses. She's a second generation member herself. You can see her in the picture there with her mum, Anita. So I can't wait to ask her questions about being a next gen member. And she's a fierce ambassador for the leaders of family firms. She's passionate about seeing them grow and thrive as individuals, as well as offering opportunities for her members to do business with each other. Amelia and her team are determined to ensure family businesses flourish for future generations to come and receive the recognition and support they deserve for their contribution to the local, national, and global economy. So on that note, Amalia, how are you?
I'm very well, Reg. I feel pumped up now. You really
We've got to
hyped
be
me up.
pumped up, okay? We've got to be pumped up in these tough times. We have to inspire people.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I've got so many things I want to debate with you because we have so much in common. And I'd love to know, first of all, how did the journey of Family Business Place and with your mother, Anita, and you being the next gen, where did it all start from? And I'd love to know how you got involved in those early stages.
Absolutely. Okay. So I went to university when I was 18 and I thought I'm going to be a brilliant fashion PR marketeer. I thought I was going to be in the Devil Wears Prada and, and then I got there and I realized it was nothing like that and it was not very glamorous at all. And when I left university, my mum ran a really successful branding marketing agency in London. And she was looking for a PA and I thought, you know what, while I'm looking for a real job, I'll go and help her out and I'll work for her. Really got into it, started this little business on the side called Family Business Place because we realised there was nowhere for people to go if you were a mum and daughter or a husband and wife in business.
Yeah.
And so that was just ticking along as a little baby project on the side. And then in 2008, nothing to do with the recession, our in-house bookkeeper went rogue on us and we owed a lot of money to HMRC that we had no idea about. It was horrific. And my mum lost her business.
Oh, wow.
Her branding and marketing agency. It was absolutely awful. We had to put it into liquidation. We found jobs for all of our team. I think we had about 12, 15 people at the time. And then it was just me and my mum left thinking, what on earth are we going to do now? And I think anyone that runs their own business will have been through those dark, horrible moments. A lot of people have lost their own businesses on the journey of entrepreneurship. And we realised, okay, we've got one ball of energy and we can either be angry and bitter and we can go and fight this guy who put us in this situation, or we can take this little business we call Family Business Place and we can do something really special with it that no one else is doing. And that's what we decided to do.
Love it.
12 years after joining my mum trying to find a real job, I'm now managing director. So that didn't go very well.
Well, that was a quick promotion, straight from co-founder to managing director. It's one way of doing it, isn't it? Just become your own CEO. I love that story about the adversity as well, because I've been through that in my 20s with a few $1 million businesses and losing everything. And it is good for you as an entrepreneur because you learn a lot from those experiences, whether it's your fault or not, doesn't matter. Businesses do fail. And I think even with today in 2020 with the crisis, it allows people like you as great entrepreneurs with empathy and real appreciation of what others are going through. And I really like that. So was it difficult working with your mum at the beginning, or did it flow? Was it easy to do?
Is she going to see this?
I'm going to send her the link later on for sure.
The reason it just worked, and I think we're quite a big family. I'm the eldest of 4 children, and we're good communicators, and we talk about everything. And I think that was the secret to it working. I also work with my youngest sister. My middle sister, Carla, she worked with us for a little while, but she realised that those dynamics couldn't work for her and she needed to go and do her own thing. So I think for my mum and I, it did work quite well. I'm quite outspoken, so I'll tell her what I think and I will challenge her. And she'd never had that before. It was always, yes, Anita, of course, Anita, from her team. And I came along and I was like, well, why are we doing it like that? And why are we not thinking about this? And
Mm.
I think that's why it worked. You know, she had a partner now rather than just a team of people working for her.
Because sometimes that doesn't work. I mean, you know, you've interviewed people and your members with Family Business Place where sometimes the next gen join and the dynamics aren't right, are they? Just there's disaster, there's conflict. That, you know, could you talk us through some of the things that you've witnessed and maybe what goes wrong there, and more importantly, what are some of the tips you've got to get it right?
So I think, you know, you've got two sides of the coin. You've got the families who are really open, they communicate, they have the conversation way ahead of time, they tackle the elephant in the room, they don't let any stone go unturned, really, and they realise that if you can get all of that sorted, it makes for a successful transition. And then you've got the other side of the coin, which are, you know, that generation that don't want to talk about it, they don't want to face their own mortality, and that one day they may not be here, and that they need to plan for the business to be handed down to the next generation, or not, or to be sold, or to, you know, a management buyout, whatever it is. Some people just don't like talking about it. Yeah. And it depends, that older generation, whether they are the sort that are really open-minded and realise that, you know, they've done as much as they can to build the business, and now it needs new blood and new skills. Or you've got, you know, some of that generation, of my mum's generation actually, who really don't ever want to talk about it, and it's been their purpose for the last 30, 40 years, and they cannot possibly imagine getting out of bed tomorrow and not running the business. So then they just don't talk about it, and obviously that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, that reminds me, reminds me many years ago about a father who wanted to hand down, and he had some health issues and eventually handed down to one of the next gen. And then I met him 6 months later, and he wasn't in a good place. And I said, "You don't look well." He says, "I'm not well." He goes, "For 35 years, I've been coming to this office every day with people lined up outside wanting to see me. And now I don't know what I'm meant to be doing." So he decided to then put his finger back in the business again.
Yeah. It's really hard, because I think particularly guys, you know, they've taken on the mantle of running the family business. They've been doing it for 30, 40 years. They've sacrificed family life, seeing their kids grow up, don't have friends, don't have hobbies. So all of a sudden to say to them, by the way, you're going to retire on X day, is like terrifying. So they sort of avoid the conversation. But obviously that causes huge frustration with the next generation, who are like chomping at the bit to get going and excited. But their dad still signs the checks. It's really hard.
Yeah. And have you noticed that there's also an extreme version of that? So some cases you get next gen members that are eager, they're excited, and they want the responsibility. But then you've got the other side where you've got people who are absolutely lazy. I mean, I had a client recently say to me, "Reg, why is the next generation, why don't they have fire in their belly like we did as the founders or the senior members of the family business?" Have you come across those cases? And if so, if someone doesn't have fire in their belly and the seniors are thinking of succession planning, what do they do?
Yeah, so that happens a lot, and a family business can be very guilty of disguising that, and becoming a place for family members to just be busy and get hidden. and I think it's on two parts, really. First of all, that next generation need to understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, and if they are never going to be capable of being CEO or managing director, that is absolutely fine, but they have to be realistic about it, and they have to find where they do fit. And it might be just heading up a department, it might be just driving a truck, it could be anything, you know. And I think also then on the part of their parents, they need to understand that just because they want their children to take over the family business doesn't necessarily mean they're capable. So you have to be realistic. And I think a lot of people aren't realistic about their children. You know, that's their golden child or their eldest son. But actually, if they're going to be no good for running the business, you might have 100 people working for you. That's their livelihoods at stake if you pick the wrong person. So we've met lots of people where there's been an interim MD whilst the next generation are getting trained up, or they're shadowing, or they bring in an external non-family CEO to manage the business, and the next generation just have, you know, lower level management responsibilities. But I think that the secret there is just to be realistic in yourself as the next gen, but also for your parents to understand that you may not be the person to lead the business.
Yeah, it's good advice. And do you feel next gen members should work outside for a number of years before joining the family business, or the parents say, oh, we need an extra pair of hands immediately, we're so busy, join immediately. What do you think around, starting immediately or working outside first?
Well, I get asked this all the time, and I met lots of family businesses where in their family charter or their constitution, it says that you must go and work for 5 years somewhere else before joining. And of course, absolutely invaluable experience. Go and work in the city, go and work for another family business. And I think they could bring back so much. Then the other side of the coin, people like me, so I didn't practice what I preach at all because I joined the family business and I never left and went anywhere else. So I had to learn on the job, really. But there's an element that's really, really priceless, because actually I've just shadowed my mum for 12 years. She's been my mentor. I've learned on the job. I've had to make mistakes. And when my mum lost her business, I was there for the whole of it. So I saw an opportunity there that when we started our new business, okay, so I'm the only person who has access to the bank. I check that bank account every single day. And they're the sort of things that you learn from your mistakes and you could learn from experience. So yes, there are lots of businesses who say you have to go and have 2, 5, 10 years experience somewhere else. And there are other people that have been, stuck in the warehouse since they were at school and in the school holidays and have got straight in. And I think it just depends what's right for you. Depends what's right for you, really.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong way, is there? Every family's got their own unique DNA and way of doing it, which is good. I've come across cases where people may do it strategically. So they're running a manufacturing plant and the next gen is quite good with engineering. So they think, okay, why don't you go to Germany or the Far East to learn about robotic engineering for 3, 4, 5 years and maybe then bring that experience back. While for others, it's not strategic. It's just go and work in some different environments and try get fired under someone else's payroll before I fire you in the
Well, so I do have a friend, and his family own a huge tech company in the north of England, and there were 3 sons, and one of them went and trained at KPMG, I think. One of them went and trained as a lawyer, and one of them went and trained as something else. I think it was in the tech industry. And then obviously came back, all 3 of them brought such huge value to that family business that the father could then step back and they could run it. So that's another example of quite a strategic way of getting outside experience.
Wow. So tell us more about Family Business Place. You have how many members now?
So we have about 150 members all over the UK.
Brilliant.
So
typically, what sizes would they be in the UK? Because the UK, I understand, has over 5 million family businesses. So, do you find most of them are at a certain level when we talk family business in the UK?
Yeah, so a lot of family businesses in the UK are probably under 20 staff. So they might be one shop or one little firm, whether maybe first or maybe second generation, where they're still actively involved in running the business. But then we have some huge businesses here in the UK, multi-generational. So I've got members, just looking at my member wall now, we've got husband and wife tech startups. We've got second generation hotel chains with 3,000 staff. I've got a 26th generation butcher.
Fantastic.
Oldest family business in the UK.
I'd love to interview them. That would be fun.
So they're amazing. There's nothing they don't know about succession. They've done it 26 times. So you've got everything in between, all types of industries. We've got people in Scotland, in Wales, in the southwest of England. And what I love about family business is that diversity is so huge. And people say to me, family business, that's a bit of a niche. Well, no, there are millions of them. Every high street you walk down, every shop you go into, every restaurant you eat at, everywhere you get your hair cut, I can bet your bottom dollar they are family businesses.
Great to talk to someone who's just as passionate as we are to support family businesses. And in the UK, I want to get your opinion on this. We do with a lot of families in Africa, Middle East and South Asia. And I'm sure there are cultural differences with working with family businesses in UK versus maybe other parts of the world. For example, something that happens with our clients often is the next gen don't speak up. In a family meeting, they'll keep their mouth quiet. We come across a lot of cases where there's a dictator in the family and everyone keeps their mouth shut. I mean, do you experience the same in the UK family businesses, or do you find people are more vocal?
Yeah, I don't think it's that extreme in the UK. I think the next generation, particularly, so my generation, I'm 33, and I think we are now quite business savvy, marketing savvy. The world is more of a global village now to us than our parents, who felt they had to be chained to their desk 9 till 5 every single day to prove, you know, they had to be the first person in, the last person out. I think we just work differently, and I think we want different things from life. I think we've seen our parents put their blood, sweat and tears into building a business and what they've had to sacrifice. And we've realised that you can just work more effectively and more efficiently now with all the amazing technology. The fact that you and I are talking from opposite sides of the globe on Zoom is incredible. But there's no reason why the next generation can't do business deals like this, you know. So I don't think we have such, I mean, there will be exceptions, but I don't think the older generation is so oppressive now. And there's an opportunity for the next generation to make a real impact on that business. So everyone I meet that's of that next generation are really sort of hungry, dynamic, eager to learn, want to make a difference, want to change the world and have an impact.
Wow.
And they're very fortunate they have an older generation who majority of the time are happy to step back and embrace that and let that happen.
Do you find the next generation, like your generation and the next gen after, the people in their, let's say, early 20s, mid 20s, you know, I think about my children at that age group. You mentioned impact. This is becoming more and more important to this generation, isn't it? They want to make social impact, and money is not up there on the top of the list. Have you found that as well?
Yeah, so I think the family business provides such an amazing vehicle to have an impact. And during this coronavirus pandemic, I think people have realised that local, independent, family-run businesses contribute so much, particularly to the local community. So even if you're just a little, I don't know, husband and wife farm shop, but actually you provide 5 jobs, you know, you keep people in business, you support the local community. When it all goes horribly wrong, you're the ones providing free meals to vulnerable people. So I think people have recognised that about independent family-run businesses now, that on no matter what scale it is, they do have an impact and they think very differently. There's a philanthropic thread running through their veins. And you're absolutely right. The next generation are more acutely aware of the fact that they can do something to make a difference. And the rise of social media and digital marketing just shows everyone what can be done and what can be achieved. You only have to watch one really inspiring video to think, do you know what, I could do something like that. And the family business can provide a vehicle for that.
So, Amalia, I wanted to ask you, with the pandemic situation, I mean, I'm sure you've surveyed and you've connected with all your 150 plus members. What's the pulse? How are some of these family businesses doing? How are they coping with the pandemic situation and being closed for so long and now trying to reopen or welcome back their customers? I mean, is it true that there's a lot of family businesses that may not be here at the end of the year because of what's happened the last 6 months?
I think it's true that there are a lot of businesses in general that may not be here at the end of the year. It's been horrific, like it has for every business owner around the world. I think in those first couple of weeks, there was a lot of just paralysis, like, I cannot even believe this is happening. What are we going to do? There were some businesses that were in better shape than others. So I think if you went into it with a lot of debt, it was really hard because people were trying to recoup every single penny they can. I think if you're a business that had already thought about, you know, future-proofing your company, so if you'd gone online, if you'd gone digital, if you had some sort of e-commerce offering, you were probably a little bit safer. Yes. Like I said, we've got hotel chains who've had to furlough thousands and thousands of staff. We've got travel firms, you know, with shops all over the country that are thinking, what on earth are we going to do now? Because even if we could open up tomorrow, there's no saying that everyone's going to suddenly get on a plane and go and travel. Yes. We've got care homes. So I don't know about where you are, but in the UK, the care home sector has been absolutely abandoned. And I've got a care home and he lost 9 people in 11 days because someone was discharged from hospital without a COVID test. So, you know, most care homes in the UK are family run, apart from the big co-ops. So that's been really, really challenging. And all we can do is be here to serve. So we've got amazing partners who are offering free legal advice, free financial advice, and we're just putting them in touch and helping them however we can. So it has been catastrophic for most businesses. I don't think any of us, I think we'd be lying if we said it wasn't. There are a few amazing success stories. So we have a member and they produce jigsaws and puzzles online. So they've seen their sales go like this.
I can imagine, yeah. And I suppose what I like about what you're saying is with the family business place, you've created that support structure and ecosystem. I like that others can contribute and help people out. I mean, I've been through the same, of providing as much goodwill as I can to as many businesses over the last few months that have needed that support.
Well, there's no need for every single person to be working in silo trying to figure something out.
Exactly.
And that's what I think the power of community is, and the power of family businesses is I can introduce two people. I can say, you're both family businesses in the same industry. You'll have the same challenges. Just talk to each other. Because he would have thought something you haven't, and she would have thought something you haven't. So there's no point us all sitting here in our own little businesses trying to just figure it all out and being terrified, when actually there's 150 people here, but actually there's millions of them around the country who are going through the same thing and have figured it out. Yeah. And what's wonderful about the UK is you've got some big family businesses who are supporting much smaller businesses in their same industry.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Moving on to some other areas, I appreciate you sharing those words. When it comes to females in family business, women in family businesses, are you seeing that increasing, and are women more successful than men in a family business environment?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the end of that question and answer. Yeah.
I was recently part of a survey by one of our partners, a bank in London, and they did a campaign called And Daughters. Mm-hmm. And they surveyed all of their family business clients and found that men are twice as likely to take over the family business as women, which is a pretty, I don't know if I was surprised or not by that fact. So they were launching a fund to try and help women in entrepreneurship and leadership skills and all those sorts of things. I think in our members, and maybe it's just because we're a female-led business, we know a lot of women running their own family businesses. A lot of them in construction and in male-dominated industries, where the daughter has been the best candidate for the job.
Yes.
You know, but they obviously have parents, particularly fathers, who are really happy to say, I just want the best kid for the job. I'm not precious about who it is, whether it's my son or my daughter. Mm-hmm. People will say that women are better at the softer skills and that they are better at dealing with people. I think they're generally better at thinking about more things at once. And I don't know, maybe men are just more focused on one job at hand and women can think about lots of different things. I certainly think it's hard for a woman, particularly if you want to have a family. So my little boy is 3 now. So his birth coincided with me taking over as managing director. You know, so trying to juggle those two things for anyone is really, really hard. Not to mention the fact that you've just grown a human being for 9 months. Physically takes its toll. So I think women have an amazing role to play in family businesses. I think there needs to be a bit of allowance for them who, you know, if they want to grow a family or they want to do different things, but they can only be an asset. But there's no different to gender and race and religion. And, you know, the more vibrant and diverse your team is, the more successful your family business is going to be because of all the different ideas and innovations that come from those people.
I appreciate that because, again, culturally in this part of the world, Africa, Middle East and Asia, it's starting to change now where there's equality starting to come to surface. But historically, it was always a male-dominated environment. You know, it would always be about the sons taking over, and the daughters would not even have a say in the family business. But now we're seeing a lot more women now on boards. We're seeing a lot of their next-gen female entrepreneurs doing extremely well, and they do have fire in their belly because they've got something to prove almost to their siblings, their male siblings, that hey, I'm better than you. You know. Yeah. So we're seeing that definitely on a rise. When it comes to, from your experience in UK family businesses that don't go to second or third, fourth generation, based on your last 10 years or so now of experience working in this field, what are the common mistakes that family businesses make that stops them from going from one generation to the next? What's your top 3 or 4 things that you see as a pattern?
Top of the list has to be communication. So going back to what I said earlier, you need to start talking about succession as soon as you can, really. People think, you know, I'm only in my 50s, I'm not anywhere near retiring. But actually, if you can make a plan for it and everyone knows what the journey is going to look like, it's only going to be more successful, isn't it? If your next generation don't know, if they're just hanging on hoping that dad's maybe going to retire or dad's maybe going to hand over his shares, and it's all left unsaid, it's never going to work. Something is going to fall apart. And resentment builds up and secrecy, and it's not good. So if you can start talking about it and communicating, then it'll just be far more successful long term.
But some people find that really difficult, don't they? Find it really difficult to communicate. Why is that? Why do they keep all their thoughts in their head and don't get it out?
And that's absolutely fine, because you know, an outsider might think, but you're a family, you know, you should be close, you should be able to talk about anything. But actually, when it comes to difficult conversations or contentious issues, the reason you don't want to talk is because you don't want to hurt the feelings of someone you love. And that is the crux of the difference between a family business and a non-family business. So I may not agree with my mum, but I don't want to hurt her feelings. Yeah. Whereas in a corporate, you know, you don't particularly care. You just, you know, everyone's on their own ladder. So I think it's absolutely okay to say we need a mediator, or we need someone in the middle to come and help us communicate. So we do that all the time. We help family businesses, particularly the bigger ones, where there are more and more shareholders. People need to have their voice heard. And around a board table, they may not be the person that wants to speak up. So it's okay to say, right, we're going to bring someone in to help, to facilitate this and to get us on our way. And I think communication or lack of it has got to be the number one reason family businesses don't make it to the next generation.
So that's number one on the list. I agree with you, because every emotional blockage that we've come across with a family business, where things are under the carpet and 20 years later there's a volcanic eruption, it's all linked to lack of communication. And definitely, I agree with you. So what would be second or third on the list?
The next one I think has been really brought into laser sharp focus recently is that inability to adapt. So, you know, really digging your heels in and saying, but this is the way we've always done it, so we don't need to change. Why on earth would we change? Why on earth would we do things differently? It worked for my grandfather and it'll work for you. The world changes, you know, and yesterday was the fastest day. Tomorrow is even faster. So things are going to change, they're going to adapt. And if you can bring your next generation in to help you, to take you on that journey, then you've got all those skills in-house. But if you just dig your heels in and say, nope, we're always going to do things the same way, then you will not be here in 10, 15, 20 years' time. And I think people have realised that now more than ever. Because all of a sudden, within 4 weeks, a lot of people had to change their business model. They had to pivot.
But communication, adapting, you know, being a bit nimble, agile. Okay, that's good. So the third one, what's the third one that comes up outside of those first two areas that stops families from going from one gen to the next?
So I think it has to be all about people. And we see that a lot as well. We see a lot of the them and us, the family and the non-family members. And you may communicate well as a family, but is that trickling down and communicating to the rest of your team? Because they all have their own families and their own livelihoods, their own agendas, their own aspirations. And you've got to deal with people and recognise fantastic loyalty from people who know they're never, ever, ever going to be at the top of the ladder because they're not a family member. So I think the way you deal and manage with people, the way you recruit great talents, the way you keep hold of great talent, the way you build a culture within your family business, rather than just assuming that everyone knows this is the way we do things, you have to make sure that communication comes down and that you look after your people.
Yeah, I love it. Really good stuff. I love it. So with the time that we've got, Amalia, I wanted to go through, you've got so many good videos on your website, and I encourage everyone who's watching this today, go to the description area, go check out, go to familybusinessplace.com, and from there you'll be guided to a whole bunch of great resources on the website. And I was going through some of the videos and I love the headings because you've recently re-edited them under 5-minute videos, which I think is great. So I'm going to take a few of the headings and just ask you for really quick responses. Here's one you've got. Could your business run without you?
Okay, so we do these 5-minute videos because there's some really easy things you can do. So could your business run without you? Could you go on a 2-week holiday without constantly looking at your phone while you're sat on your Sunlander? And that's about empowering your next generation or empowering the management team, taking responsibility and letting them make decisions and letting them accept the responsibility for what happens to those decisions. And I think a lot of people are so scared of letting go of their baby. But if you want to be able to have some sort of balance, some sort of life, then you have to empower those around you.
Yeah, that's good. The next one you've definitely talked about already, which is my dad won't talk about succession. And you talked about starting early, yeah, as possible, which is good. Why every growing family business needs a plan. Why do we need a plan? And I'm also curious to know how many members do you have that really understand what a family constitution or a charter is and have done it and have implemented it?
So I think having that plan is all about having a roadmap. So a lot of family businesses start with a brilliant entrepreneur who's invented a widget or thought of a great idea, and they know what's going on in their head, but no one else around them does. And they may have started it, they've worked really hard, it's become really successful, but what are they doing it for? And they don't always know. And I think now more than ever, we have to say, what are we doing this for? What's the reason we are here? Let's create a plan and make sure everyone knows where we're going. And that plan may include passing it to the next generation and the next generation. It may include we're going to build it up and we're going to sell it. It may include we're going to sell it to our employees and become employee owned so the family can step away. It doesn't matter what the plan is. Write it down. Think it, then ink it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Think it and ink it. And that plan gives clarity to everybody, doesn't it? And there's nothing wrong in exit. You mentioned about exit, selling the business. There's nothing wrong with that, because that liquidity could be used for something else as for the family. I really like this one. Great heading. Everyone has to watch this 5-minute video. I thought working with my brother would make us closer.
We see this so often where siblings are running a business in partnership together, and they thought it would make them closer as siblings, but actually it's brought them like this head to head with each other. And it's heartbreaking to see. But again, if it can be well managed, if you can divvy up your roles, if you can understand your individual strengths and weaknesses and accept responsibility for your part and realize that you can't meddle in the other part, then you can make it work. But if you're always like this on decision, it's all about decision making. Who has the power in the decision making? Well, let's accept responsibility for separate areas of the business, and you'll go far. But otherwise, you are at real risk of your sibling relationship crumbling and falling apart. And it's just not worth it. And my mum always says, you can get another business, but you can't get another family. And it's absolutely true. So if it's not working, do something about it.
You could start a new family though, couldn't you?
You divorce your current family and you go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife will watch this later on. We'll see what happens. We'll have a volcanic eruption tonight. And then I'll call you and say, hey, could you mediate? Why does my dad keep meddling? That's a good one.
So again, this is about understanding, put yourself in your dad's shoes. You've taken over the family business, but he keeps popping in. That happens a lot. My dad keeps popping in. Yeah. He's retired, but he keeps popping in. So put yourself in his shoes. He has got no purpose now. He doesn't know why he's getting out of bed in the morning. He's got, like you say, nobody wanting to meet him and greet him and talk to him and pick his brains. So you've got to understand what that must feel like. He sacrificed everything to build that business that you're now running. So, maybe it's about working together on a new project for him. Maybe he could start a new business. Maybe he could be a mentor. Maybe you can assign him something in the business. But understand how he must be feeling right now. It's not meddling. It's just not knowing what his new purpose is.
Yeah, absolutely. And almost it takes 5, maybe even 7 or 8 years where, I don't know what you think, where you're putting a succession plan together, but there's a retirement plan or a repurpose plan. Because if you don't do it in parallel, it becomes premature, doesn't it? So it's inevitable that the person's going to meddle or put their finger back in the pie because they don't have that other path planned out.
Yeah, completely. And if you can make them feel wanted, there's no point taking over the business and then chucking your dad on the rubbish heap because he knows so much. His experience is absolutely invaluable. So formalize that. Why don't you say to him, Dad, can we have a monthly meeting? I want you to be my mentor. I want you to help me through these challenges. Or how do I manage this team? Or how do I solve this problem? Make him feel wanted because there is so much value in his experience.
Yeah, brilliant. The next one is a real big one. We could probably spend 3 hours on this one, but we'll keep it brief, is the whole thing around shares. And one of the questions that you answer in your video is around, when will my parents give me shares? When am I going to get some equity? Am I going to become an owner? And some parents have some sort of dilution plan early. Others, it's in their will. It's when they go gone, then it's suddenly people are going to inherit. Could you expand on when is the right time? Is there a right way of doing this from your experience or not?
So again, the shares is a financial aspect of the family business. So first of all, we need to get the family dynamics and family relationships sorted. And a lot of people, when you talk to them, if you got succession plan figured out, yeah, we've done it with our accountant. Okay, so succession planning is not a financial exercise. It's about family, behavior, dynamics, and relationships. When you've got that sorted, only then can you talk about the finances and the shares. So people get that the wrong way around a lot. We see that a lot. And then, every business individual, my mum would say, never give your shares. That next generation need to buy them and they need to have skin in the game if they are going to make it work, and if they're going to have that fire in the belly that you were talking about earlier. You know, they probably haven't had to sacrifice what the older generation have. They probably haven't had their house on the line. So she would say the next generation needs to have skin in the game. Whatever it is, the parents might want to hand down their shares. They might rely on that for their retirement. So I think you just have to be open. You have to be honest. But I think the important thing is succession isn't about shareholding. Succession is about you as a family, what you want to achieve and the impact you want to have. And then you can talk about the finances.
So let's clear this up once and for all, because I'm completely aligned with what you're saying. There's a lot of people in the industry, and I'm not knocking anyone because some of them may be in your ecosystem, where, you know, when it comes to our experience, we get people, okay? We can facilitate, we can support, we understand the human capital aspect of it, which is what we do. But there's a lot of people in the industry that come from a legal background, accounting background, wealth management background. And when this word succession comes up, like you said, it's all linked to shareholder agreements. And I agree with it. It's got nothing to do with that. The family constitution, first of all, has got nothing to do with shareholder agreement. But why are people confusing family businesses out there by putting everything into the same pot and confusing them? So I'm ranting now because you've hit a nerve, because it frustrates me that people are getting the wrong advice.
Absolutely. So when people come to us, we figure them out as a family business, and we figure them out as people, as individuals, right? What do you want to achieve in life? What impact do you have? What do you want to do? Because only then, once you've decided, and a lot of people don't even know that. A lot of people, if you ask them, right, what do you want from life? They could not tell you. So when you figured that out, then you can make that roadmap, that plan we were talking about. And shareholding is just a bus stop along the way of that route.
That's good.
And you're absolutely right. People will, probably their accountant is the first person they will turn to. And most family businesses that we meet don't know that there are other people they can talk to. So a lot of people don't even recognize themselves as a family business. They just see themselves as a business who happen to employ family members. And when I say to them, but you're a family business, they're like, well, yeah, I guess we are. But that's a huge asset, and there's so much value in that. But you need to decide what the family want, what they want to achieve, what the individuals need. And then the finances will come. I don't think any family go into this thinking, I want to screw my mum over. I want to make sure I have more shares than my brother. No one goes into it thinking like that. It's only then when outside people come in and say, yes, but you need to get your shareholdings all in place. And yeah, of course you do. But let's think about it the right way around.
Yeah, wow, really good. What this is linked to one of the other videos. What happens if you've got, we come across extroverts and introverts all the time in family businesses. What happens if the founder, in this example, is a larger than life character, has a strong brand, as you have mentioned in your video, you call it amazing entrepreneur. And now you've got the next generation who are trying to follow those footsteps. What are your thoughts around getting that right?
So you've just described me. Because, my mum is a brilliant, vivacious, really well-known networking queen, knows everything about everyone, a really strong personal brand. And then little old me comes along and says, by the way, I'm going to take over this family business. So there's a lot to be said for your personal brand, and a lot to be said for speaking up for what you believe in. Mm-hmm. So many people are really hesitant and shy, in this day and age in particular, where you can't say anything without offending someone. I think it's important that you have a belief. And I've got a great friend called Rami Ranger, and he says, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. And that really hit a nerve with me when I first heard that. If you don't believe in something, you will fall for anything. And I just think, as leaders, as a next generation, you may not be an extrovert. I wouldn't say I'm a natural born extrovert. It takes a lot for me to get up and walk into a room and talk to people. But I'd say I know what I believe in. I know what my purpose is. I know what I'm passionate about. And I know what I love and what's important in my life. And only then does that come across. And you've got to lead a team. People are looking at you for all of the answers, and you don't have them. But if you know what you want to achieve, and you know how you want to do things with integrity and loyalty and trust, I think, people will buy into that. You don't have to be your mum or your dad. They don't need another mum or dad. Okay. They need someone to come in and bring something new and different.
So essentially what you're saying with your own journey, you develop your own personal brand, okay? And keep that authentic, yeah? Just be yourself. That's who you are. What about when I'm not saying this is the case with your journey, but I've come across scenarios where you've got a dominant character, big ego, next gen, someone has got a similar ego. And now from a brand ambassador point of view, they're competing with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't have two brand, you need one face, yeah? I mean, I can
Completely.
see that with your brand, you're everywhere now. And, you know, I admire your mum to be able to take that back seat and say, go, right, go. But there's a lot of founders who struggle with that.
Absolutely. And you can see that clear as light as day when go into a business and people don't know who they're supposed to be following. Am I following dad? Am I following daughter or son? I don't know. So, you know, the person who's supposed to be the CEO, the next generation, this is the way we do things. He's made this decision. We're going with that. Dad comes in and starts meddling. And we've talked about this. Okay, but he was my boss for 30 years, so I should be doing what he's doing. So I think you have to clear that up and you have to get to the bottom of it. And that goes back to finding a purpose for the older generation, for the outgoing generation, and making sure they still feel fulfilled in life, still needed, still wanted. But it's so important for the direction of the business that there is strength in that one leader and that there's none of this going on.
I won't go through the rest, but I'd say go to the website. There's at least another 20 videos there to go and watch. One thing I didn't notice, Amalia, on the videos was a topic, and I'm sure you'll do this in the future, around spouses. I want to get your opinion on spouses joining the business, in-laws joining the family business. Have you seen that work? Is that a good model, or really that could really jeopardize the family business legacy by having all spouses involved in the family business? What do you think?
So I've seen both scenarios. I've seen it where the daughter is the family member and her husband comes in. Because he's one step removed from the family, because he's detached and it's not his family, he can make very good strategic decisions without having that responsibility of familyness about them. So it can work really, really well like that. And in fact, I've seen a lot of son-in-laws come in and take the business by the horns and run with it. And it does very successfully. And also because that dynamic between them and their father-in-law, their mother-in-law is slightly detached. They're not their children. So they're able to have more open and frank conversations. But then I've also seen it where it's gone horribly, horribly wrong, where the spouse has come into the business, they've not been treated very well. And of course, that then is disastrous, really. And then you lose part of your family as well. So it's, you know, why is that spouse joining the business? Are they bringing something, or are you just giving them a job? Because if they're not bringing something, that is never going to work, because they will get found out. You know, if you're paying the salary of a spouse, but the business isn't doing very well, or they're not bringing to it, they're not bringing value, then that's never going to work. And it's only going to end in tears, really. So it's two sides of the coin again. You know, if you are open, you're honest, you can have frank conversations. But if you're there sort of under the radar, not doing a very good job, you're just there because you needed a job, then that's not going to work either. You know, my husband works with us, but as a freelancer, so I don't pay his salary. He's our photographer and our videographer. He's the one behind the camera and all those videos.
Paid?
Yeah, in love. I gave him a son. What more does he want?
Oh yeah, literally is freelancer.
Don't tell him that. He'll like that.
Yeah, again. So I think I've seen the same. If you do it right, there's a lot of, like you said, communication, good family values, constitution. There's direction. There's some ground rules in place. You can make it work. I've seen spouses do a brilliant job, and some of them don't need to be in the business. They could make also good board directors.
Yeah, and let's go back to that point you just said about values. Those values are so aligned because they've married into that family. You don't marry into a family unless you share their values. So you already know, they've already passed one of the tests of getting into the family businesses. They share your values, and absolutely they could be a board member, a non-executive director. They've got fantastic experience outside the family. They may have their own family business, you know. So I think I've seen it work really, really well, and I've seen particularly son-in-laws come in and absolutely transform a family business. But I've also seen the other side of the coin where someone was given a job just for the sake of it, and then it just ended in tears.
You touched on values. That's a core topic that, you know, I drive a lot with clients and getting that right. What's your thoughts around finding your life partner? You know, you're going to get married to someone, and you know, what's your thoughts around values or assessment? valuation. Some people think I'm mad when I talk about these things. No, it's just about love. It's just about love. If you love them, you get married. But then we know the consequences of that down the road in a family business, don't we, if values are not aligned. So
I think if you have faced adversity, your values are what got you through it, regardless of what everyone else says. So this coronavirus pandemic, people will go back to business, doing business with people who treated them well throughout this pandemic. And that is nothing to do with what your business was or what you sell or your products. That is to do with, did you put some trust in me? Were you loyal to me? Did you do business with integrity? And those are the things that will come to the fore when you're up against adversity. And I think anyone who's in any kind of relationship, whether it's husband and wife or partners or fathers and sons, you know, your values, unless you both are true and authentic to those values, you will never be able to get through those difficult times. And so when you're trying to find, I mean, I met my husband in a nightclub. It's not a very romantic story to tell the kids.
Yeah. Was it very dark in there?
But I think we knew within minutes of meeting each other that our values were aligned, that we were all about family. We're all about love and trust and respect. You have to have so much respect for people. And I think that gets lost along the way in businesses sometimes, that, you know, everyone's working their way up through the ranks and respect sort of falls by the wayside. And I think when I met my husband, we just knew that. And we have been to hell and back together, you know, and we've been through some extraordinary things. But our values are what keep us together. And they're the reason we can get up the next day and say, right, come on, we can do this and we can do this together, because there is strength in partnership. And isn't that what family businesses have? They have these amazing partnerships going on between family members, between them and their team, because they've built up this incredible ecosystem of suppliers and customers. And that is so unique and special to a family business. And I don't think people appreciate that enough.
So if you get it right, it is special. And that's why we do what we do. It's rewarding, it's satisfying. But it's not easy, is it? There's many fireworks that happen and dramas. And there are people also out there that say, no, it will never work. You know, forget this family business stuff. It will never work. And that's why, unfortunately, a lot of them don't even get to second or third generation. But if you get it right, I believe there is power in numbers. There is power in coming together. And when there is a pandemic or a global recession or crisis, if you are together, it doesn't matter if businesses will come and go, but that unity can allow you to pick up things very, very quickly and start all again.
And who better to share those incredible times with than the people you love most in the world? So yes, there will be really dark, difficult times. And as families, we really manage to dig deep somehow and get through them. And when you run a family business, there is no plan B. There's no backup plan. There's no bank coming to save you. It's all about us and making it through this. But you know, you share those dark moments, you get through them with each other. But we've had some amazing highs, and who better turn around and, oh, by the way, my sister is standing next to me and sharing in this incredible experience. And I think that is just something magical that my friends who work in the city are never ever going to experience. And you know, there's so much value in that.
In conclusion, I've really enjoyed this episode, and talking to you. I could speak to you for hours because we're just so aligned with things. In conclusion, family business place, your family business. Tell us about the future. What do you see in the next 10, 20 years? What's your vision?
So I'm so passionate about building this community of family businesses. You know, it's not about us and it's not about them as individuals. It's about this community of support and growth and excitement. And we've got 150 members now. And like you say, there's millions of them in the UK. So I've got a big job to do. And my mission is to meet every single one of them and to be able to help them with something and bring them together. We also transitioned our business onto delivering our membership online digitally just before the pandemic. So I'd like to say it was a stroke of genius. I think it was just pure luck. But everything we do, members can access online. And that's really important to understand, that the butcher who has to be up at 4 a.m. or the baker is not going to be able to come to a conference in London for a whole day. So we deliver all of this content online, wherever they want, on demand. I think that's really important. And that's something that I, as the next generation, have brought. I've been able to fathom out the tech. I've been able to be brave enough to say we're going to change our business model slightly. So I'd love to just be able to reach more family businesses and let them know they're not alone. There's great people out there who can help them, and that we can help their business grow and thrive and and create some sort of legacy and impact, no matter how big or small they are. You don't have to be a huge family business to be successful.
That's great. And I hope both our firms collaborate more. So for those of you watching and you're part of our community in this part of the world and you're looking to get access into the UK or do things there, we look forward to collaborating with Family Business Place and vice versa. If you're a member of Family Business Place and you're thinking about how do I do business in Africa, Middle East or South Asia and how do I expand there, we'll also connect you with our members and jointly look at maybe how we can do some other educational programs to serve both our communities around the world. So, on that note, I really want to thank you for your time. It's been a real pleasure. I hope to do this again in the future and maybe collaborate and maybe do some joint interviews with some family businesses.
That would be amazing.
It could be fun. So, thank you very much. Stay safe. I hope things get back to normal soon in the UK and life goes on and we can have those face-to-face meetings again because we miss it. It's not all about online.
Thank you, Reg.
Thank you very much.